So in the last video, we wired up our retro rack system, and now we've got it powered up, and I've put some presets into the JMP and the Intel effects, and I've also put them onto the same MIDI channel to allow the patches to be changed simultaneously using the foot pedal, which is just a 4-stomp foot pedal. I don't have any expression pedals, but you can hook that up via MIDI if you wanted to control expression on the Intel effects. Important thing to note with the EL84 is, of course, it's a dual mono block, so make sure you don't run in mono, make sure you run both outputs at the same time, whether that means into 2 mono cabs or into a stereo cab like this. You have to have a load on both sides basically at all times or you'll blow it. So I've got the Harley Benton here, which has a dual 16 ohm input running in stereo with vintage 30s. The guitar is the Charvel Pro Mod Sandimas. I am running a compressor for the clean tones. I feel it helps out with the sort of mediocre cleans you get on the JMP. So I guess we'll start with them. So that's pretty cool. Also, I am doing the coil tap setup on the Charvel because it sounds cool. So that's with chorus, delay and reverb on the Intel effects, and just a nice clean tone on clean 1. So just to show you, I just hit the pedal and the patches change, as you can see, on both units at the same time, and it's instant, and it's kind of like, I guess you could say it's kind of like an Axe Effects, a retro Axe Effects, where you're controlling presets via MIDI. Differences, this is more unreliable because it's running valves in the power section. There is valves in the preamp section of the JMP, but Marshall have been quite open about saying it still does diode clipping, it still does like a digital sort of distortion that's then run through a tube to kind of give it some character. So it's not a true valve pre-stage, but it's if you match it up with a good valve power stage, it's going to sound cool. There is the larger version of this 1U power amp that I've heard sounds, well, if you've ever heard Iron Maiden live and stuff like that, that's what you're hearing essentially. Sounds really cool. So we'll do some dirty tones now, just with reverb. So that's OD2. Now what you can do is OD1 is a really cool sort of JCM-800 style thing. So if you put on a cool like chorus and verb and delay setup, and then actually use, I guess, the compressor as a boost pedal by just running the volume full, you can get some cool retro. Effects does have it kind of a noise suppressor built in, digital hush they called it, which is sort of like it's kind of like a noise suppressor pedal, but I find it's actually quite good for considering its age. It does zap the noise without kind of affecting your solo tones and stuff like that. It's good. So we can do some like kind of retro blues style stuff. This is where a lot of people do complain about the JMP-1. They say that like it doesn't have the same breakup as a proper valve preamp stage, so it doesn't. It's kind of I like here. I think it sounds pretty cool. Here's a little bit more grit on the OD1 channel with a bit more reverb. So yeah, other things to point out would be make sure you keep the EL84 with cooling at the front and cooling at the back. There has been overheating problems with it because they've crammed so much for really hot valves into such a kind of small compact space. And obviously the other thing is with it being a valve power stage, before you play you should just leave it to heat up for a few minutes. It sounds kind of weird when you just flick it on and start playing. The Rocktron is quite fiddly compared with the JMP for programming. Once you get your head around it, it's pretty easy, and you can get a pretty huge 80s tone for relatively good value, and it's reasonably compact. Fair enough, this guy's pretty heavy to carry around, but it's just that and that. There's no huge pedal boards, there's just MIDI patch changing. It suits me and it's cool. Sometimes if the gig is a smaller venue, just take this instead and run that straight into the valve power amp, and it just saves a lot of weight. Just put all my patches into this. But for larger venues it's good to have the full setup. So yeah, thanks for checking it out.